Dear Mom, if you're reading this, I'm probably dead. That's how my last letter from Afghanistan started. What I didn't write was that I'd hidden cameras in the house before deployment, motion activated, uploading to the cloud. I wanted to make sure you were safe while I was gone. Instead, I watched from my hospital bed as you celebrated my death with champagne. Finally, you told Aunt Sarah that deployment paid off. You had my death certificate framed, hung it in the living room like a diploma, sold everything I owned within a month. The cameras caught you practicing your grief face in the mirror before meeting with lawyers. They also caught your screen when I walked through the front door 9 months later, very much alive, holding printouts of every crime you'd committed. Welcome to the channel where betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from those who gave you life. If you're ready for a story of military sacrifice and maternal greed, hit subscribe. Let me tell you how my mother cashed in on my death while I was fighting to stay alive. My name is Staff Sergeant Marcus Hayes, 28 years old, Army Rangers, 3rd deployment to Afghanistan. I enlisted straight out of high school, partly to serve my country, mostly to escape my mother. Linda Hayes was what you'd call a professional victim. Every relationship ended with her as the wounded party. Every job ended with her being unfairly targeted. My father left when I was 12. I used to blame him. Now I understand. Growing up, Mom treated me less like a son and more like an investment. You're my retirement plan, Marcus, she'd joke. Except it wasn't a joke. She'd calculate how much I'd make in the military, what benefits she'd get as a dependent. When I turned 18, she tried to claim me as disabled to get Social Security. When that failed, she pushed me toward the military. They'll pay for college, you'll get a pension, we'll be set for life. I joined to get away from her, but the Army became my family. Found brothers who'd die for me, purpose beyond myself. Made rank quickly, Rangers lead the way. Good at my job, maybe too good. Kept volunteering for dangerous missions. Part death wish, part needing to matter. Sent most of my pay home to Mom, keeping her stable. Figured it was easier than dealing with her drama before this deployment. Something felt different. Mom was too interested in my paperwork. Insisted on being my power of attorney in case something happens. Made me update my SGL, military life insurance, to $400,000. Kept asking about survivor benefits, death gratuity payments. Just being practical, honey. These deployments are dangerous. She'd never called them dangerous before. I installed the cameras on a whim. 8 tiny devices I'd bought for forward operating base security. Figured I'd test them at home. Told myself it was to watch the house, make sure Mom was okay. Deep down, I knew better. Something in her eyes when she hugged me goodbye. Not sadness, anticipation. October 15th, 2023. Nuristan Province, Afghanistan. Mountain patrol in hostile territory. Intel suggested Taliban movement. My squad was tasked with reconnaissance. 6 men who'd walked through hell together. Martinez, Johnson, Williams, Cooper, Thompson, and me. Brothers in everything but blood. The eye was perfectly placed. Hidden in a section we'd cleared twice. Triggered when our vehicle hit the pressure plate. The explosion launched our MRAP sideways. I remember the world turning upside down, the taste of copper, the silence after the blast. Then the ambush started. Taliban fighters had waited for the bomb. Coordinated attack from 3 sides. I was thrown from the vehicle, landed hard in a ravine. Broken ribs, shattered left leg, head trauma, but alive. Could hear my brothers fighting. Above, tried to climb up, provide support. Another explosion. RPG hit our vehicle. The screaming stopped, all of it stopped. Then voices in Pashto, getting closer. I buried myself under debris and bodies. Played dead for 6 hours while they looted our gear. Woke up in a German hospital 3 weeks later. Landstuhl Regional Medical Center. The nurse cried when she saw my eyes open. "We thought we'd lost you. Turns out I'd been in a coma. Severe TBI, internal bleeding, face barely recognizable. The Taliban had shot me twice after the ambush, thought they'd finished the job. American forces found me during a sweep, barely. Breathing. My squad didn't make it. 5 brothers gone. I was the only survivor, and I shouldn't have been. The guilt was worse than the pain. Why me? Why did I live when better men died? The doctors said it was a miracle. Felt more like a curse. Months of surgeries ahead. Learning to walk, talk, remember. But first, they needed to notify my next of kin. The army couldn't find my mother. She'd moved from our house in Texas, changed her phone number, left no forwarding address. My emergency contact was useless. They listed me as MIA, missing in action. Standard procedure when they can't confirm death or notify family. I was alive but officially lost in bureaucracy. That's when I remembered the cameras. The hospital had Wi-Fi. I could access the cloud storage from my laptop. Thought I'd find clues to where Mom went. Instead, I found betrayal beyond imagination. The footage started normal. Mom watching TV, making coffee, basic life. Then, 3 days after the ambush, everything changed. Mom got a call from someone at the army. I couldn't hear the military side, but her responses were clear. Missing in action? What does that mean exactly, then? So he could be dead? When? Would you know for sure? No tears, no breakdown. Just questions about timeline and benefits. She hung up and immediately called someone else. "Sarah, it's happening. Marcus is missing, probably dead. How long did you say before they pay out?" The next footage was worse. Mom practicing grief in the bathroom mirror. Different expressions of sorrow. "My baby boy," she'd wail, then stop, adjust her face, try again. "My only son, taken too soon," like rehearsing for a play. She spent hours perfecting her performance. Even practiced fainting, making sure she'd fall safely on the couch. Within a week, she'd hired a lawyer. The cameras caught their meeting in my living room. "Without a body, it's complicated," he said. "But after 60 days, we can petition for death in absentia. Military cases are usually faster." Mom's response: "60 days? That's 2 mortgage payments. Can't we speed it up?" Not concern for me. Concern for bills. I watched helplessly from my hospital bed as Mom orchestrated my death. She contacted the army daily, not for updates on search efforts, but for documentation. Pushed for presumed dead status. Told them I'd spoken about bad feelings before deployment. Claimed I'd said goodbye like I knew I wouldn't return. All lies to expedite the process. She found a corrupt veterans affairs official. The cameras caught her handing him an envelope in my kitchen. "Just need the paperwork expedited," she said. "My son deserves better than bureaucratic delays." 2 weeks later, she had my death certificate. Official cause: killed in action, hostile. Fire, body not recovered. It was dated just 30 days after the ambush. The memorial service was elaborate. Mom spared no expense, using my savings account she'd accessed with power of attorney. Rented a large venue, hired caterers, printed programs with my ranger's photo. The cameras in the house showed her preparing, trying on different black dresses. Which one says grieving mother better? She asked Aunt Sarah. She gave a performance worthy of an Oscar. The live stream from the church showed her sobbing over an empty casket. Marcus died a hero, fighting for our freedom. He was my everything, my only child, my purpose for living. The same woman who'd called me a burden throughout my childhood. The congregation wept with her. She collected condolence cards like trophies, but the real purpose became clear at the reception. Mom worked the room, mentioning financial hardship, the burden of funeral costs, how she'd have to sell the house. The donations poured in. Church members, my high school friends, local veterans groups. Everyone wanted to help the Gold Star mother. She collected over $50,000 in donations that day alone. The systematic destruction of my life began immediately after the funeral. Mom had my death certificate, power of attorney, and zero conscience. The cameras captured every transaction. First, she went to the bank. As my POA and sole beneficiary, she had full access. Checking, savings, investment accounts, all drained within days. 20 years of saving, combat pay, re-enlistment bonuses, $127,000 gone. Next came my possessions. The pickup truck I'd restored with my squad, sold to a dealer for quick cash. My motorcycle, the Harley I'd dreamed about through 2 deployments, gone for half its value. Gun collection, accumulated over years, sold to the first buyer. Even my dog, Rex, a German Shepherd I'd raised from a puppy, sold to a breeder. The cameras caught her leading him away. He kept looking back at the house, confused. The military benefits were her biggest score. Death gratuity, $100,000 tax-free payment to next of kin. SGL, life insurance, $400,000, back pay and allowances. Another $15,000, veterans groups pitched. In with emergency assistance, Gold Star Mother Support Funds. Educational benefits transferred to her. All told, she collected nearly $700,000 from my death. The house, my house, bought with my combat pay, went on the market. Too many memories, she told potential buyers. I can't stay where my son lived. Price to sell fast. The young couple who bought it seemed nice. They talked about starting a family, filling the rooms with children. Mom smiled and took their offer, $50,000 below asking price. Speed mattered more than profit. By December, 2 months after the ambush, Mom had liquidated everything. My entire existence converted to cash. The cameras showed her final walkthrough. She stood in my empty room, but not with sadness. She was counting money on her phone calculator. $743,000, she said to herself. Not bad for 28 years of investment. Mom disappeared from Texas in January. Left no forwarding address, told no one where she was going. If I'd actually been dead, no one could have found her. But the cameras had one last gift. She'd made a phone call from the kitchen, booking a cruise. Yes, the Caribbean Princess, presidential suite, departing Miami. She was going to celebrate my death in style. Meanwhile, I was fighting my own battle in Germany, surgeries to reconstruct my face, physical therapy to walk again, speech therapy to overcome the brain injury. The doctors said I was progressing remarkably fast. You have something driving you, one noted. I did. Rage. Pure, focused rage at the woman who'd birthed me and then sold my death. The army was a bureaucratic nightmare. Officially dead, I didn't exist. Couldn't access my pay. Couldn't contact my unit. It had been disbanded after the ambush. The paperwork to resurrect me would take months. It's complicated when death certificates have been issued, the JAG lawyer explained. Especially when benefits have been paid out. They suggested I stay dead until they could sort the legal implications, but I was done waiting. February 2024, I discharged myself against medical advice. Still limping, still scarred, but mobile. Used my buddy Thompson's emergency credit card. He'd given it to me before deployment, made me promise to use it if I ever needed help. He couldn't keep that promise, but his card still worked. His parents hadn't canceled it yet. I booked a flight to Miami. Finding Mom was easy. She was living her best life on the Caribbean Princess, permanent resident of the presidential suite. Posted constantly on social media, photos of champagne, beaches, new jewelry. Living life to the fullest in honor of my son was her bio. The comments were all sympathy and support. You deserve happiness after such tragedy. Marcus would want you to enjoy life. If only they knew. March 15th, 2024. 5 months after the ambush that should have killed me. I stood outside the dining room of the Caribbean Princess, watching my mother hold court. She was at the captain's table, draped in jewelry I'd never seen, telling stories about her hero son. The other passengers hung on every word. She'd reinvented herself as the ultimate grieving mother, turning my death into her identity. I was wearing my class dress uniform. Ranger's tab, combat infantry badge, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, every ribbon earned in blood. My face was different. Reconstructive surgery had changed my features. But the scars were visible, evidence of survival. I waited until she raised her champagne glass for another toast to my memory. To my son, Marcus Hayes, who gave his life so we could live free. The room raised their glasses. That's when I walked in. The room fell silent. You could hear the ocean through the windows. Mom's glass slipped from her hand, shattered on the floor. The sound broke the spell. People gasped, some screamed. One woman fainted. "Hello, Mother." My voice was different too. Damaged vocal cords from the smoke and debris. Gravelly, harsh. "I'm home from the war." She stood frozen, champagne dripping. From the table, her mouth opened and closed like a fish. The captain looked between us, confused. "Ma'am, do you know this man?" Mom's survival instincts kicked in. This. This is a cruel joke. My son is dead. I have the certificate. This man is an imposter, but her voice shook. The other passengers looked uncertain. I pulled out my military ID, my orders, my medical records. Staff Sergeant Marcus Hayes, wounded in action. October 15th, 2023. Spent 5 months in military hospitals. Apparently, I've been dead while recovering. The ship's security got involved. Mom demanded I be arrested for impersonation. I provided DNA evidence. The military had it on file. Within hours, the truth was confirmed. I was Marcus Hayes, very much alive. The captain offered his office for us to talk privately. Mom had no choice but to follow. "How?" was all she managed. I placed my laptop on the desk, pulled up the cloud footage. I installed cameras before deployment. Wanted to make sure you were safe. I hit play. There she was, practicing grief in the mirror, celebrating with champagne, counting money in my empty room. Her face went white as she watched herself exposed. "I can explain," she started. But what explanation could there be? You thought I was dead and threw a party? You sold my dog? You cashed in on my brother's sacrifice? I showed her the footage of the memorial. 600 people mourned me. You collected their money. My squad's family sent donations. Parents who actually lost their sons supported you. The ship's security called the FBI, fraud across state lines, theft of military benefits, false claims to federal agencies. The list of charges grew as we sat there. Mom tried tears, the same fake ones she'd perfected in the mirror. I thought you were gone. I was grieving in my own way. But the footage showed the truth. No grief, just greed. "I have one question," I said as they prepared to take her into custody. "Was I ever anything more than a paycheck to you?" She looked at me then, really looked. Maybe for the first time. "You want honesty?" "You were an accident that I turned into an opportunity." 18 years of investment that finally paid off. At least she didn't lie at the end. The arrest made national news. Gold Star mother arrested for fraud after son returns from dead. The story went viral. Every major network covered it. The footage I'd collected became evidence. Mom practicing grief, planning my liquidation, celebrating her windfall. The public that had sympathized with her turned vicious. She'd violated something sacred, the sacrifice of soldiers and the grief of real Gold Star families. The legal proceedings were swift. Federal charges don't allow much wiggle room. Fraud against the government, theft of military benefits, wire fraud for the bank transfers. The judge was a veteran himself. His son served in Afghanistan. He had no sympathy for a mother who'd profited from her son's presumed death. "You dishonored every parent who's actually lost a child in service to this country," he said during sentencing. Mom got 12 years federal prison. She had to repay everything: the military benefits, the donations, the proceeds from selling my property. But most of it was gone. Spent on cruises, jewelry, high living. The government seized what they could. The rest became restitution debt she'd never be able to pay. From presidential suite to federal cell in 6 months. I struggled with the aftermath. The media attention was overwhelming. Everyone wanted to hear from the soldier who came back from the dead to catch his fraudulent mother. But I just wanted to disappear. The Army medically retired me. Too much damage, both physical and psychological. 30% disability rating. Enough to live on barely. The hardest part was the other Gold Star families. Real mothers who'd lost real sons. They reached out, offering support, sharing their grief. Their pain was genuine. Everything my mother had performed, they lived. I attended support groups, met parents who would give anything for their child to walk through the door like I had. It made Mom's betrayal even worse. I used Thompson's parents' garage to rebuild. They insisted I stay with them. "You were Michael's brother. That makes you our son." They'd lost their only child in that ambush. Yet they opened their home to me. Showed me what real parents looked like. We grieved together, them for their son, me for the mother I never had. Started a non-profit with some of the recovered funds. Verified Valor, helping families navigate military death benefits while preventing fraud. We verify casualties, support real Gold Star families, and investigate suspicious claims. Turns out Mom wasn't unique. We've exposed dozens of cases. People profiting from fake military deaths. Each one dishonors real sacrifice. I got a service dog, named him Rex too. He helps with the PTSD, the nightmares where I'm still under that debris. Sometimes I wake up and check my pulse, make sure I'm actually alive. The TBI affects my memory. I forget things, mix up dates. But I never forget watching Mom celebrate my death. That memory is crystal clear. Mom writes from prison occasionally. Not apologies, she's incapable of those. Updates on her appeal, complaints. About conditions, I don't respond. What would I say? That I forgive her? I don't. That I understand? I can't. She gave birth to me, but she was never a mother. Just a woman who saw dollar signs where she should have seen a son. The other Rangers. Families became my family. We gather every October 15th. Remember the 5 who didn't come home. Martinez's wife makes his favorite food. Johnson's parents tell stories. We laugh, we cry, we honor them. This is what love looks like. What Mom performed for money, these people live every day. The difference is stark. My name is Marcus Hayes. I served my country, survived an ambush that killed my brothers, and came home to find my mother had sold my death for profit. She spent 9 months believing I was dead, and used every minute to enrich herself. When I walked through that door, alive against all odds, her first thought wasn't joy. It was fear of getting caught. The cameras I installed to protect her protected me instead. Every crime documented, every betrayal recorded. She practiced grief like an actress preparing for a role. Sold my life piece by piece. Turned my sacrifice into her retirement plan. The woman who gave me life tried to profit from my death. I've learned that family isn't blood, it's choice. My brothers who died in that ambush were more family than my mother ever was. Thompson's parents who took me in showed more love than the woman who raised me. The Gold Star families who embraced me, understanding loss I can only imagine. They're my tribe now. Mom got 12 years. I got life, a life she tried to steal, sell, and spend. But I'm here. Scarred, damaged, but breathing. Every day I wake up is a day she didn't plan for. Every breath is a rebellion against her greed. She wanted me dead for money. Instead, I live to see justice out to those serving. Update your paperwork carefully. Choose your power of attorney wisely. Not everyone who loves you wants you to come home. Some are already planning your funeral, practicing their tears, counting your death benefits. Document everything. Trust but verify. Because sometimes the enemy isn't in a foreign country. Sometimes they're waiting at home with your death certificate already framed. The Eid should have killed me. In a way, it did. The Marcus who deployed, who trusted his mother, who sent money home faithfully, he died in that explosion. What came back was someone else. Someone who learned that survival is more than beating death. It's discovering who truly wants you alive. Rangers lead the way. Even back from the dead,